Here we got the garden pulling tractor blank, and we're going to do a wire edge all the way around it to give it a nice edge that'll help stiffen it and keep it safe and keep the tire safe. For wire edge, you need a flange 2.5 times the diameter of your wire. We're using a 1/4 inch wire, so I've set a mark at 5/8 and marked it all the way around our fender. So now what we're going to do is we'll go tip it, we'll get that edge standing up, correct the shape, and then we can start working with the wire. Using a skateboard wheeled lower and my tipping upper, and I've got the tension set pretty much full in. Going right on my line and just tipping it around. This skateboard wheel is just going to set that line so that we can continue the tipping operation. And the little bit of tip that's going to give us is going to show us where our distortion is to help us get the panel back into form. There you go, you can start to see the tip lines. More so on the outside than the inside. And now what's going to happen is as we tip up, it's going to start wrinkling, and we're going to need to shrink to get this back. Change the shape on the edge of the flange in order to get the form to come back correct. Now I had the tipping die and the steel lower. Now you can see where it's starting to form these little tattletales, and because I know that this is there's more area on the outside than there is on the inside of this flange, I know that I need to shrink those out. You can see them right here. So I'm going to shrink those out and use a sweep to check my form, and once we have the form right, we can do more tipping. This area is straight, so that I know that that is just a change in form. But because this is a concave, I know that I have to change its shape to get it to come around and in. This radius is so small, I'm eventually going to have to just shrink by hammer and dolly. So now that all my little puckers are gone, I'll go back in and tip some more. Then we'll compare it with sweeps and get the form right. Once the form's right and the flange is standing straight up, we can move on. So here we've taken our sweeps and we've put it back within form. And we've taken our radius gauges onto the edges and gotten it back. So now we have the flange standing up and it back into the right form. So we've cleaned this up. What we're going to do now is form the wire to the inside of this, and then we can paint the inside of this flange in the wire. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to form the wire to the inside of that flange. Now that we got it painted and the wire's fitting in there pretty good, I'm going to use a reverse curve hammer because those curves will allow me to move this flange without stretching it too much. And I'm going to use this special dolly that I made to get the flange at a 45-degree angle. Once it's at a 45-degree angle, I can then pull this, and the sandbag will hold the resistance, and I can hammer that flange down just to pinch the wire. We could do that in a couple of spaces along the way, and then we can just move through and start closing the wire on it. But the first thing we need to do is just trap the wire in one place. So the clamps are holding it down and in where it's supposed to be. The dolly's preventing the wire from pushing out from me, and I'm going to use the reverse curve hammer in order to move the flange over and get it on a 45. Like I say, I don't want to stretch the flange. I just want to make the flange roll over the wire. Now that I got it at that 45, I'll take the flange around to where it will pinch the wire good enough. Once the wire is pinched in, we can just take the dolly and hold the wire out on the spaces in between where we've pinched it and lay the wire over it. Still using the reverse curve hammer. Once we have it close and pinched, we can then take the hammer and close the wire. And that'll start to pinch it in. We can then come back with a tool or vice grips or whatever, or the hammer and dolly or hammer and post dolly, and tighten it up even more and correct the shape with metal finishing. And we'll get all of this around, and then we'll come to this corner that we have to do some more shrinking on. In the process of trying to close this, I didn't realize I had too much material. The shrinking had kind of built it up a little longer, and I didn't catch it till it was too late. So what I ended up doing, I took our hem opening tool that we made and I folded it back up to where I could get to it. Then I took a die grinder and I die grind to reduce some of the material. Now I should be able to wrap it around the edge. It's not going to be as pretty in here, but we should hopefully be able to metal shape most of the error out. The last bit of closing, I'm going to take my cross peen and you just basically slide it down and close the wire. So this is the other side. The last thing to do is clean up. We're just taking a file and going around it, making sure we have the wire as closed up as we can get it. And you can see this corner worked out much better than the other one. And then we're just taking it, just basic metal finishing. We're taking the file, finding our highs and lows, doing any cleanup that we need to do, and then we'll sand it and it'll be done. But that's wire edging. I'm going to include some textbook pages for some of the wire and how to do it. Let's see that one, Mike. Here you can see what we're trying to do. We're trying to wrap that sheet metal around that wire. We got to clean it up some. And this was in the stage of cleaning up. But you can see I have a little bit of a knot of material there where I kind of made that error. And then there are some places where it just, I didn't have the material spacing right, I don't think. But if you don't do it every day, it's tough. So But that's wire edging. Next thing, we'll get those fenders mounted back up. There will be a support that goes into here where the bolt flange is and welds and goes from wire to wire to support it. And the fenders will just about be done when we get those mount plates on, get them finished cleaning up, and we can send them off to the body man. Here we are mounted onto the tractor, and even though it doesn't have a front mount, you can see it's still a very stiff fender. It'll also keep your hands and everything from getting cut up, and it'll keep the tire from getting damaged. One thing I did forget to mention is once all the metal finishing and the bodywork is done and it's primed and painted, there will be a sealer put along that edge on the inside to keep any dirt or moisture from getting in between with that wire and everything. But we like the way the cut looks, and soon it'll be off to the body man.